Hey, it's Jason ODB, the Lincoln Addict, hitting you with another eBay review. Thanks to everyone that's come and checked these out. Some of you have left comments and really given some good feedback, so certainly appreciate all the support. As I always say, if you get a chance, check out Lincoln Addict podcast. You can actually go and just type in Lincoln Addict via your browser, and by Googling that, will bring you over to the main website that you see here, and you can listen, you can hit play. Of course, this is hosted, if you look up here in the left corner, through Podbean, so you can download the Podbean app on your Android or iPhone device, and you can stream it there, or through many other ways like Spotify and Pandora. So let's jump right in here. A 61 Lincoln Continental. This one, if you look here, is this person has only one review. So that means they're new to eBay in terms of selling, and that isn't always a good thing. It's not always a bad thing. It could just be the person's new to the platform, right? So we want to keep that in mind. The other thing that I want to kind of mention is when I look at some of these photos here, I do tend to want to scroll down here and look first for a description, and then see if they have additional photos. Like you guys have seen me mention that in some of the other videos. And what I'm seeing here is there's really no description except for 61 Lincoln Continental Convertible. Let's jump right in. The first thing I see here when I click is the easiest way to generally tell if it's a 61, if you're looking at the sides, is you see this little key hole cover. Now, my understanding is this was a 61 option, and the early 62s did have this. So I helped sell a 62 Lincoln Continental Convertible, and it had these, but it was a January production, right? So it goes back to that VIN plate, identification plate, and if you break those down, like we've kind of looked at in the past, if it's early, I don't know if it was January, February, March, that type of thing, but generally speaking, this is typically a 61 thing. But you can see here the big thing that we want to look at is, it's missing some Peak Moldings, but we can't help but see there is what appears to be rust, and the obviously car has been sitting. You can see from like the way the tires look, and then it's been somewhat kind of covered up with what appears to be some sort of, I guess, old school looking tarp deal. Because I've got this blown up from here, and I think sometimes I was getting confused on the other videos. When you click up here, then you can just use your, mouse here, or I use the keyboard. Obviously here they pulled off the tarp, and what I start to look at is, you see just a ton of parts, and this can be a good thing, being that the stuff is there. It can be a bad thing knowing that, when these cars are what our good friend TC likes to call a basket case, it takes someone experienced or that knows these cars to really get them back and restore them. And, it's no, secret here. If you look at this, with the top being this bad and just parts everywhere, you've got Peak Moldings missing here. I mean, you're in for a full restoration with this thing, right? You can see the weather stripping here is just really, really, really rough. This would definitely make noise coming through those vent windows. We can see here the vent windows are manual, and I forget if it was an option in the early 61 2s and 3s, but, it's not uncommon to see the manual vent windows. I've even seen them like in the 68s. They even had, the option for the manuals, if I remember correctly. But you can also see on my 64, this little area between the top of the door and, over towards where the glass is at, it's kind of concave. This is the best way I can kind of explain. And you'll typically see like the paint will peel here, and you'll often see, just kind of some of the primer or whatever. Kind of zoom back out. Good thing is, you're seeing lots of parts, meaning that, it's good if kind of everything is there. Again, if you've ever watched like Richard Rawlings or Dennis Collins or any of those TV shows, when someone's coming, like especially if they're a flipper or there's someone that restores cars, they want to kind of do a quick assessment. Is everything there? And you can see, this thing has been sitting a long time. I mean, it looks pretty rough. These door sills right here are missing. And for anyone that doesn't know, those can get pretty costly. Now, the outside metal piece, you have guys like Detroit and Deviant that remake those with some cool, scripting and whatnot. But the piece that goes here, those are harder to find, and they do get pretty expensive, believe it or not. The other thing you want to look at on convertibles is right here, these what I call the cap. And there's a stainless piece that goes right here on both sides, and it's a nice kind of trim piece. If that piece is missing, these get pretty expensive. I think I saw a set the other day for maybe $300 or $400, something like that. And if they're not there, again, that's just one little piece that you could have someone custom make something. But if you're going to get this car and you're going to do a restoration, you're going to want all of the stuff. We can see here the dash looks pretty bad, which isn't necessarily a good thing. And then I always like to look at this rear view mirror. Being that these are convertibles, this one's pretty rough, but if these cars sat outside a long time, you'll start to see a lot of surface rust and pitting and things like that. I've seen some pretty bad mirrors. I actually own one from an old parts car, and I mean, the pot metal that this is made of, literally just be horrible. So, it kind of gives a little bit of a tell to how much moisture has gotten in the car, if any. And being that these are convertibles, people have reminded me over the years, like, even if they just sit outside as a daily driver, they're going to get some of that moisture and stuff on the inside. And you'll start to see it here on the steering column. A lot of this, if it's not bad, it can be cleaned up with the Brasso and the Quadruple Zero wool. Again, a lot of this, if it was a full restoration, stuff's going to start getting re-chromed and what. But just giving you some things to kind of look at. Also, around these bezels here, there's the 3 pods for the gauges in these years. There's a film that's on here, and if you didn't know, let's say you've got your own car, and you can take these apart. These come out pretty easy, and you can get that Quadruple Zero in the Brasso, and you can get that steel wool. It will clean these up really nice, and it will take off this almost like, it's kind of hard to see, but right here, there's almost like a film that's on it. And if you own one of these cars, or you've sat in one and you've seen it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But these clean up very nice. I actually have one of these in my kind of man cave here, and I lit it up with a battery light, and I had cleaned them all up, and they just look really good. You can see down here all kind of like where that wood paneling type, I forget what they call it, that material. All that's got to be replaced. And here, it's just showing you kind of a little bit of the dash cracked and whatnot. Okay, so, we're already saying, okay, it's a convertible. It's been sitting outside a long time. It's got holes in the top. Those are already red flags to go, eh. You look at this deck lid, and, this thing is bad. Okay, there's no other way to put it. Oftentimes when I talk about kind of looking up under here, kind of putting your hand and checking this area, this right here is exactly like if this was nice on the outside or someone had finished it, there's usually a tell that's going to be up underneath here, and it'll just be all crunchy. This one, there's nothing to really hide. It's just bad. And you can see, like, the body doesn't look too bad here, but the deck lid's just horrible. That's not uncommon, especially for these cars that have sat outside for a long time. This deck lid, to me, it's probably going to have to be replaced, I would think. If you had someone like Grant Fab, who's a guy in our truck scene, kind of some people refer to him as the sheet metal god. You could have someone come in here and if you spend enough money and have them rebuild all this, reskin it, so to speak, if the underside is decent. But you're talking a lot of money to do something like that, and it's just often not worth it. Here again, peak molding is missing. You start to see rusted here. Bumpers don't look too bad. All this looks pretty good. It's good that they have, a couple of photos here to kind of show what we're working with. At least they're not kind of trying to hide anything so far. Again, you see some rust here. We've seen one of these cars sit in a particular place down towards the beach, and this car sat there for 10, 15 years, was a black one. And what'll happen is over time, if this thing sits in the sun and the rain and all that stuff long enough, I mean, it'll literally just start rotting away right here, and you'll just get big holes, just where, we've seen them kind of rot out. So, this car is definitely getting kind of bad off here where it's sitting. You could see here, I'm not a paint body expert, but the paint is clearly fading away. The panels here look really rough. I mean, this is right here on the door. When you start seeing the door isn't lining up perfectly, I mean, these cars were pretty, they look pretty good from the side, from the factory. But I mean, this right here is telling me, maybe there was a dent here, a little bit of collision, just not good. The doors, look rough. Maybe someone sanded it. It's just, it's looking pretty rough so far. In here, I always talk about, this trim piece fits so well on these cars. Of course, this one's missing. You can see someone's picked this over a lot. And right in here, the dog leg. I think the other side looked worse, but you just never know. Was this maybe resprayed at some point? It's just looking rough is the best word I can kind of to give. A lot of times, if someone's underneath this car, they're going to start to look with a flashlight to see were there any tack welds or, was a fender changed out, being that these are unibody cars. Sometimes fenders do have to get changed, but if you're looking for a true kind of survivor car and stuff, you don't want one that's maybe been in a front-end collision and things like that. You've got tires clearly that are going to have to be replaced. I mean, that's the least of your worries with this one. So I'm going to hit escape, and I'm going to come back here, and what I'm going to see is basically we just went through all the photos, right? We're going to scroll down again, and what I like to do is I like to click over here. That obviously opens into a new browser window, a little bit bigger photos. We could have started there, but then you have to hit back each time. What this is telling me is that's all they have. So let's go back and just kind of reassess this one, right? So it's a 61, and it's in very, very rough shape. This price here is, to me, not priced right for the majority of buyers, right? You could get someone, and I've seen someone go, oh, this is my dream car. I can't afford a 30, 40, 50 plus thousand car. Totally get it. I could get this, and I could, insert, all the ideas, right? The challenge is that this thing is missing so much. It's going to need a complete restoration. I mean, you could end up easily in this market right now with the cost of things and, getting someone that's a good painter and body work and all this. This could easily, in my opinion, be a $100,000 to $200,000 restoration. Easily, okay? Maybe more. You will often not see someone that's going to put that much into it get that much out. It just doesn't really happen. Now, if you do a full customization, you're talking coyote swap, and you do all the bells and whistles, we've seen these cars go for, easily $125K. When you start to get over that six-figure number, it gets a lot tougher. You'll sometimes go, well, if I'm going to spend $150, I would want it to be original. And then, they're looking at a coyote swap. I know Ollie from Isotope Wheels, he's had some luck. I've seen some of his auctions where he had more of a stock 64, and then he had a custom 64 in the same auction, and the custom 64 that had the coyote swap and stuff only went for $10K more. Now, that's just one example, right? So if he's listening to this or others that know him, he does some very, very cool stuff. But I've seen just where the customization piece of it, they get to a certain number and they kind of top off. Now, Joe, who I mentioned at Weld County Customs, he recently set the record over $700K after the fees. So, I mean, by all means, a car can go for a pretty penny. Don't get me wrong, I've seen those. But when you look at this, more than likely this is going to be a parts car. I mean, if this was on any, Lincoln guy's, possession, in terms of the what we call the usual suspects, and it's at a Lincoln, parts place or stuff. I mean, it's going to get parted out. I mean, this car, we haven't even seen. My number one thing is like underneath the car, right? If the top of it is this rough, what does the bottom look like? And if the bottom is rusted out the way I think that it is, and it's going to need all four floor pans, and it's going to need more. I mean, it's literally just it's not going to be worth the restoration. As I've said before, if you had a 61 or maybe another year where some of these parts were interchangeable, I could see you trying to get it because, hey, like if these bumpers look good, sometimes, you'll say, okay, well, I could get these and then, I could swap it and clean the bumper up and stuff. But at this price, to me, I just personally don't see it that it's going to sell for this much. You can see kind of a couple little dents there, the bumperettes, but bumpers look pretty good. And, I often say a lot of this can be cleaned up, with some good polish and different methods and things like that. Trying to think really what else. I guess the last thing that I could think of right now is when you think of the convertible trunks on these, John Cashman will tell you, and you've seen him on Jay Leno Garage. Now, he's retired. Mike Moreno has bought his business. But what I'll try to do here is pull up, remember, it's Convertible Lincolns. You can go on his website. But when you buy an earlier 60s Lincoln, I think it's 1, 2, and 3, which, again, this is another bad thing is we can't see in the deck lid here. But one of the things that's key is back here, they're going to have used, instead of getting to the later years, mid-year Lincolns, where they used the Type F trans fluid for the hydraulic lines, they use like a brake fluid. So bottom line, this car, I mean, I can tell you right now, if you did try to restore it, you're going to need all new lines. You're going to need cylinders, the rams. The whole kit is going to run you anywhere from $1,700 to $2,000 to replace all of the lines and the rams and the solenoids and the cylinders. Then you have to factor in that all the relays are probably going to be just nasty, rusted out. They got to be swapped, $80, $90, $100 a piece, unless you go kind of a newer school method with a different kind of relay. But you just get into the convertible top, all of that, and then the top itself is $1,000, and then you have labor, and then you've got the wiring that goes to the top. I mean, this is literally a car I just do not see someone doing a full restoration. Now, the Lincoln guy in me goes, yeah, man, get it, restore it, get it on the road, run it if it's ratty. You could probably get the engine running, more than likely pretty quick, and obviously throw a fuel tank in it and clean the fuel lines and potentially have a ratty vert, absolutely do it. But if you look at some of the things that we've pointed out, the way the door is and the fender and all this, like it's just not going to be for most people. So let me know what you think in the comments. Again, I'm not trying to be harsh on a seller. Some people say, hey, let the sellers get their money. Absolutely. I want people to be able to sell things and get their loot. But, let's be fair to the buyers. Let's not coerce someone into buying something that literally is going to, cost them a mortgage refinance to be able to do, if they can even do it with that much money. So that's all I got. Again, I will just throw out the plug. Check out Lincoln Addict Podcast. You can hit play now right here on the website, or these do batch to YouTube now, starting with, I think, episode 22. You can go back here. You can go on Podbean, and even if you're on Apple, if you're on an Apple iOS device, go to the purple pre-install the app and search Lincoln Addict. It's that easy. Follow, subscribe, whatever that button is, tap it, and then you'll be good to go. So, appreciate everyone watching. Have a great week. ODB, we out of here. Peace.